Welcome to the Chairman's Perspective Podcast. Chairman.
Welcome back to the Chairman's Perspective. We're your eyes and ears on everything Memphis and Shelby County, and sometimes we may even cross that bridge and go on over to Arkansas.
Sure do.
I'm your host, Van Turner Jr., along with my steady co-host, DC.
Yes, sir, right here.
And today we've got a great show. We have Carol Coletta in the studio with us. She is the president and CEO of the Memphis River Parks Partnership. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on the Chairman's Perspective, powered by the Kudzukian Network.
The Chairman's Perspective on the Kudzukian Network.
Kudzukian! R&R on Sports is proud to be on Sirius XM.
So what's R&R stand for?
Real talk and relevant sports issues.
It's racial and relative. We're brothers from the South. We can relate.
R&R on Sports on the Kudzukian Network.
DC, this is going to be a great show, and I tell you why. We have the great Miss Carol Coletta in the studio with us today, and she is the president and CEO of the Memphis River Parks Partnership.
That's
and
a lot of words.
Yeah, but we got it.
And we have her.
Yes, sir. And we're going to talk all things Carol Coletta, so we're just so happy to have you here with us.
I'm delighted to be here.
So let's talk about your journey. I know you were here, you left and did great things, and now you're back in town doing even greater things. So tell us how you came full circle. You left and you came back.
Oh, well, I grew up in Memphis. I was born in South Memphis, raised in Longview Heights.
Oh, wow, that is South Memphis.
I'm telling you, it's South Memphis.
You're South Memphis.
Seriously, South Memphis.
Wow.
And then did my stint in Whitehaven, and then came back to Memphis and worked on all of the first things way back when we were just starting to try to revive downtown.
Yeah.
But we were sailing into the wind, man. Everybody was going the other way. So I'm so glad I lived long enough to see downtown start to emerge. But about 15 years ago, I had an opportunity to go run a couple of national organizations. First, the Mayor's Institute on City Design out of D.C., and then CEOs for Cities with Mayor Daley in Chicago.
Oh, wow.
And then after 8 years of doing that, decided I had funders come to me and say, would you start something called Art Place, which was the first national funding organization around creative placemaking. We worked from Alaska all the way to Miami.
Whoa.
And that was exciting.
That's fun.
And then I went down to the Knight Foundation in Miami. So I got a chance to live in Chicago for 8 years. Great city, way underrated. And then down to Miami, which is a very interesting, welcoming, very diverse city.
It's very underrated, too, by the way.
Well, Miami's overrated for the wrong things, but that's another story.
That's another podcast.
That's another story.
That's another podcast.
Yeah, that's right. We'll do that another time. But then I got a chance to come back to Memphis with the Kresge Foundation, and then ultimately they loaned me to the Memphis River Parks Partnership. So it's been a great journey. I've had a chance to work and speak all over the world about cities and how to make them successful. But Memphis has always been in my heart. I've never looked at any other city or any piece of research we've ever done without thinking about it through the lens of Memphis and how it would affect our city.
Well, thanks for dating us so long. We like that. She's married to us right now.
So I know that the Waterfront is sort of what you're doing now. That's the big thing, Tom Lee Park. And so just tell us a little bit about what's going on with the Waterfront and Tom Lee Park, and what are the plans for transforming Tom Lee Park?
You know, it's funny. I'm really not a parks person. I'm not a waterfront person. I'm a cities person. It's like I'm pretty agnostic. Whatever makes cities successful, and my city in particular successful, that's what I'm for. And I think we're a city that can't afford to waste any resource, any asset. That's people, that's places, that's whatever we have that we can grab onto and build success off of, that's what we need to do. We've got a Mississippi River that we've never done much with.
That's right.
And our river at Memphis, the Mississippi, the legendary Mississippi River at Memphis, is at its widest and wildest. It is a natural marvel. And how we've never done anything with our riverfront that, by the way, we own.
Right.
And is clean. We don't have to remediate our riverfront.
Right.
I go all over the world and people are having to buy back their riverfronts, clean them up because they've been industrial use.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And so not only do they have to buy them, they have to clean them. We didn't have to do either. Our forefathers had the good sense, to keep that riverfront public.
Yeah.
And so now I think it's long. But the first plan for our riverfront was done 100 years ago. 100 years ago, people have been trying, good Memphians, good Shelby counties have been trying to do something with this riverfront. So we think now with the riverfront concept, we had 2 years, 3 years now of people being involved in saying, here's what we want for our riverfront. We know that we need to join it all up from all the way from the Wolf River Greenway all the way down to MLK Park in South Memphis, and make it all that it can be for our city.
You're listening to The Chairman's Perspective, powered by the Kudzukian Network. And that's where I'd like to stay right there, Carol, and talk about the challenges, because there appears to be a challenge of sorts in our community in terms of the public perception of the work that you all at MR, the partnership, right? There's a lot to say. The partnership that you're doing in light of some of the changes that are proposed. A lot of us see the same thing. It's a big park, and you just go out and you just look out. Oh, there's a river. So some of the challenges that you think are out there of the perception, there's a lot out there we could do with that part of America, right? Just sitting right at our doorstep.
Yeah, we've always thought of our riverfront as a piece, as a collection of fragments,
sure,
right? And they weren't joined up. So you had this park and this park and this park and this park, and no one ever thought about them as connected until I think this riverfront concept came along. And the real power is in the connection, not only north and south of our riverfront, but also east and west between the riverfront and downtown. Because what you want to do with every asset is you want that asset, if it's a real asset, it will make everything around it more valuable. So the idea is to join it all up. Now, that's the tough part. I mean, the controversy about what we do with this big 30-acre Tomley Park that is so visible, probably the most visible piece of real estate in Memphis. That's a thing where people have used it the same way for many years, and they worry naturally about, are you going to make changes that will cause us not to be as great as we think we are, right, with the festival? And, our answer to that is we're actually designing a park that will, we believe, make the festival a lot better. Right now, it's got terrible drainage problems. You don't have restrooms built in. You don't have electrical. The park, if you go look at it today, you will see an unholy mess because of the damage during the festival. They don't mean to. No. It's just the park won't take the damage. So, and then the people who use it the rest of the year really get cheated because they have a very
degraded.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Park. And so what we want to do is make sure that this park is beautiful
year round,
365 days a year. It attracts people all year round, but it can also serve as a really wonderful festival ground for Memphis in May and other festivals.
Yes, right.
There's
no reason why the Italian festival couldn't be down there, right? I mean, even though I know they love Marquette Park, but it's that thing has really grown.
Love to see Africa in April. And one of the great things, the Pride Festival, one of the things that is super about the design of the park is there are these 3 big lawns. Well, depending on the size of your festival, you could use all 3 lawns. You could use 2. You could use 1. And you still would feel really comfortable and in that park, and you'd look like a success. It's all about looking like a success. Optics. And so I think the designers have been very, very smart about meeting the needs not only of our major festival in May, but also other festivals.
Wow.
Well, we'll be right back on The Chairman's Perspective Here with Carol Coletta and my co-host DC.
Yes, sir. We'll be right back here on the Kudzukian Network.
The Chairman's Perspective on the Kudzukian Network.
Jazz, America's own original musical art form. When did it start? Who were and are some of the major players? How do you distinguish what kind of jazz you're listening to? We talk about the great and lesser-known artists, songs and tunes, the instruments, and the social impact jazz has had on world culture since its beginning at the start of the 20th century.
Riffin' on jazz on the Kudzukian Network. Kudzukian!
Hi, I'm Carol Coletta, President and CEO of the Memphis River Parks Partnership. And when it comes to all things Memphis and Shelby County, I listen to the Chairman's Perspective here on the Kudzukian Network.
And we're back on the Chairman's Perspective. I'm your host, Van Turner. My co-host is DC.
Yes, sir. I'm sitting right here. Not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere.
Don't go anywhere. And we are here with none other than President and CEO of the Memphis River Parks Partnership, Miss Carol Coletta. And now we want to talk about what other cities have done. Man, I tell you, we just left Detroit for a conference, and I was just blown away by their riverfront. We didn't know what body of water is out there. They said it was the Detroit River, and right across the river you saw Canada, just like when you look across our river, you see Arkansas, and it was so beautiful.
Oh, really?
It was so relaxing. So many people were using it and enjoying themselves, and we saw so many families, and I see where we're headed. And it's not only Detroit, but it's Louisville, Savannah, and Richmond. Is this informing you, Carol, as to what we could have our riverfront look like?
You know, one of the first things we did when we launched the riverfront concept was take a group of Memphians to see 4 riverfronts in 3 days.
Wow.
It was a really quick trip. Mm-hmm. And we went to Philadelphia, Detroit.
Oh, forgot about Philadelphia. That's right.
And Chicago. Mm-hmm. Chicago Riverwalk is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And what was so exciting is each of those had different conditions. No city had a better river than ours.
I'm sure.
But what they've done with even a little bit of land, look at Detroit. I mean, there are places where there's just a little bit of land, nothing like Tomley Park to work with. They are, in every case, they are true gathering places for all of the people in that city. Everyone feels comfortable. It's the one place where everyone mixes, no matter the income, race, age. You see everybody. And, you know, there's a very human reaction when you see that kind of beautiful diversity in a city and everyone's just enjoying themselves, getting along. It's not a consumer activity. And a lot of times you just say, well, where's the thing? It's actually just people being with other people. People want to see other people.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's a beautiful thing. And in every city, those waterfronts define, in many ways, the image of the city.
Absolutely.
So even if you never went to our waterfront, and I can't imagine you wouldn't want to do that, but even if you never go there, you benefit if Memphis and Shelby County's reputation improves.
Globally, that's right.
That's right.
That's absolutely right. And so I know that this is not cheap.
Yeah.
And the county is looking at an allocation, the city, I know the state. And so could you kind of cover that? And what is, I think, most, important is that private funders have really stepped up because they realize what the riverfront can and should be. And I know that it is taking some cost.
You're listening to The Chairman's Perspective, powered by the Kudzukian Network.
There are projects that we've already completed that are wildly successful. River Garden, down on the river, on the harbor, between Jefferson and Court. It just, I mean, no one ever went to that park. No one knew that park was there. And all of a sudden, I mean, the day we opened, even in the winter, it was covered up with people. You asked me about the cost. So investment, and that was all privately funded.
Right.
River Garden, all privately funded. When we redo Memphis Park, when we get the opportunity to do that, that will all be privately funded.
Yeah.
So Tom Lee is another piece of the puzzle on the riverfront. It's a $60 million investment, and what we hope it's a public park. Keep that in mind.
Right.
So the public, have a stake in it, and we want to have a stake in it. And so what we're trying to do is craft an equal public-private partnership. $30 million from the public, $30 million from private. And that would be philanthropy, corporate, generous individuals. And when we think we'll get there. I mean, the time is now.
Right.
The end is in sight.
Right.
And I think we're going to get it done when, and it will represent a new and different kind of Memphis.
I want to go back to some work that you did earlier in your span of working with our city, our state, our citizens, our kids, and that's a jobs conference. I understand that you had you were a catalyst for getting this thing off the ground. How does a jobs conference work? And one thing I think you touched on a moment ago was how the river can, from a global perspective, open up a lot of doors for Memphis, right? Memphis and Shelby County. So you're talking about people coming to Memphis, spending money, staying overnight, which is a jumpstart to economic development. And I like to talk from that perspective with you. How does that happen? How do you get behind such an idea to get this is almost like a jobs conference, because this is a big deal. What you're doing.
It's a big deal. It is a big deal. We project when the riverfront is completed, it will be generating $1.1 billion of economic impact over a decade.
1.1 billion.
100,000 room nights a year, because people will be coming to Memphis all year round. Significant city and county taxes, because the riverfront makes everything around it more valuable.
Right.
We need property taxes. Mr. Chairman, property taxes stay home, unlike sales taxes.
Absolutely.
And so we like that. So, it's funny, if you go back to 1979, okay, there's a date, the Memphis Jobs Conference, we worked on it a couple of years and funded things like the Orpheum.
Sure.
And Agri Center and the Convention Center Hotel, all those things. Beale Street, there was money for Beale Street in that jobs conference. And we identified two industries way back when, logistics, we call it distribution, and tourism, that we felt had great potential. And if you look at how Memphis developed, those two industries, in fact, have produced most of our jobs. So, this will feed, we think, into the tourism industry in a big, big way, the riverfront. If you look at why people travel today, they travel for experiences.
Right.
Right? People are spending more money on experiences today than things. And as a result of that, the riverfront is a great opportunity, unmatched opportunity for Memphis to provide a very powerful experience to visitors. The great thing about our riverfront, though, and most riverfronts you've seen, is that locals love it and enjoy it just as much as tourists. So it's one of those great mixing places where you get, it's 2 for 1, right? It's not just a tourist attraction.
That's what you want.
It's not just for locals, it's for both.
Wow. You know what? Hold it right there. We got a lot. We got a lot of information, a little bit of show left, but we'd like to come right back. We'd like to come right back with Carol Coletta right here on the Chairman's Perspective, powered by the Kudzukian Network.
Chairman. The Chairman's Perspective on the Kudzukian Network.
The off-year electorate, the midterm electorates, are older, less diverse, more conservative. You have two electorates fighting for the future of this country. And what I'd say to your viewers and people listening in is, you know what? You got to stop that older, less diverse electorate from funking around with your future.
Funking up your airwaves and jamming the good information in your ear. Once again, it's Funky Politics.
Funky Politics.
And we're back on the Chairman's Perspective. I'm with my co-host, DC.
Yes, sir, right here.
And we're here with Ms. Carol Coletta, President and CEO of the Memphis River Parks Partnership. And we were talking about the jobs conference, and I think that you are certainly committed to equity and diversity, Carol. I know that when you all presented to the commission, you mentioned that approximately 44% of all the individuals and companies that are involved with this project are minority and women-owned businesses, and I think that is commendable, and it sets an example for all companies.
Let me stop you right there. Did you say 44% or 4%?
No, I said
4.4%.
2 4s, 44%, almost half.
I digress. Go ahead, Carol. Go right ahead. I'll be quiet.
Well,
44. Get out of here.
I want to make a point. This is a majority black city in a majority black county in a metro area where the biggest demographic is African American. So do the math. There is no formula for success in this community that doesn't run straight through black people in black neighborhoods.
Hallelujah. Show's over. We're done. We're out. That's it.
Carol Coletta for president.
Yeah. No, but the thing is, take out all the emotion. Take out what you feel in your heart. It's the math. Do the math. And so I think our performance on the first couple of projects at 44%, I think is commendable. We've got 25% required in the contract.
Wow. And
required. But the point is, 25% is not enough.
No.
It's not enough in this city for the city to be successful. I don't think about the park and the riverfront. You cannot have a successful park and riverfront if you don't have a successful city and county.
Absolutely.
So this is not separated. This can't be about a few days, a few people, a few This is about all of us succeeding together, and that's the way we're trying to approach this work.
Well, you know what? The show's almost over for me anyway, so you've already preached a good word there, Pastor, and I'm ready to go. But I'd like for you to paint a picture, because with that type of investment that you all are making and all of these collaborative efforts, especially MWBE Spin, paint me a picture of what this thing looks like. And I just assume I've never seen the plans you all have laid out, but just a picture for our listeners to kind of get a feel for what they can expect if all things are working together.
Yeah, if all things are working together, you're going to arrive at Tom Lee Park, and you're going to see all of Memphis represented there. You're going to see people, family. It's going to be a safe, beautiful, shaded place.
Shade?
Oh, yes, shade.
Where are you going to get the trees? You're going to grow them that quick? That's a lot out there.
We can grow trees.
Wow.
We know how to do that in Memphis.
Well, I like that spirit.
And so the idea is to make a beautiful, safe place for families to enjoy themselves and each other, see people they don't know, and enjoy this place in all of its diversity. We're going to have we want to make the best playground basketball courts in the South. Right in the center of the park, we're going to have a beautiful habitat tower, a playground that's based on STEM learning. We expect to have the world's largest outdoor STEM classroom. So we're serious about the learning. We've got these environmental features, green infrastructure that will be so beautiful. And someday I hope we incorporate that on the streets of Memphis. When we build new streets, we put in bioswales so that all that water that is so precious to us is not going, into our sewers, but in fact is staying and growing things. So there's so much we can do in this beautiful park. We'll have the first ADA accessible ramp from the bluff to the banks. And, those of us who are getting a little older.
She looked at me real strange. Mr. Chairman.
That was a self-reflection. I may need that ADA accessible
I'm with you.
ramp.
We'll be walking down together then.
There you go. And by the way, it's pretty darn steep between the bluff to the bank.
Yeah,
so now we'll have
true.
a beautiful, so if you've got a stroller or a dog or you're just a little slow, you want to take it easy, it'll be beautiful. It's going to be, in fact, this ADA accessible ramp is going to be so pretty. I think it will be the place in Memphis for the big family reunion photos, because there are all these rocks.
Sure.
And, everybody can get there.
You're listening to The Chairman's Perspective, powered by the Kudzukian Network.
So this is great. I think that it is very commendable that you all are attempting to work it out with the Memphis in May coalition. And I think that the city and the county would benefit from all of what you're doing with Tom Lee Park and the Memphis River Parks partnership. And so Mud Island is sort of like connected, but it's not connected. It's there, but it's not there. We've noticed the big, beautiful Memphis sign there.
Yeah,
I need
great
to go.
work.
I need to go.
We gotta go take
check
a
it out.
picture.
We need
man.
to go do it. Yeah, we need to podcast from.
We'll be podcasting from the Memphis. That's what we're doing from the Memphis side,
right behind us. But what happens with Mud Island as we develop and we refresh and we transition Tom Lee Park?
It's a great question. Mud Island, I think, has a future. Mud Island is a very complex question. I was there. I made the first speeches about Mud Island. I was in City Hall at the time. We were thinking about building Mud Island, so I know it from its beginnings.
Wow.
It's a 40-year-old park that was built to be a park, designed to be a park, but then sold as a theme park, and which has always created this tension, right? It didn't quite feel successful. So it's got, 40 years of deferred maintenance, and you think, well, even if I had the money to do the deferred maintenance, would I want the same uses?
Sure.
So what we're doing right now is trying to do light, fast, fun on the island, and I think with the sign, with the reopening of the Gulf Grill, with the remaking of the museum, with the concerts in the Grove that are unbelievably fabulous. We've got Tanya Dyson and Bertram Williams doing the work for us there with the trees. That's going to be an all summer long concert series. We're doing some fun stuff at the island, and people are flocking over there. So what we're doing is we're doing light, fast, cheap, and learning what will work on Mud Island and along the riverfront. So this summer looks like it's going to be a real hit.
Yeah, and the key question, I thought there were plans to build a land bridge where you could walk over to Mud Island. Is that a reality, or is that just something I saw and that's not happening right now?
There was a land bridge in two riverfront concepts ago.
Right. Wow. Right.
But I've heard that idea again. But frankly, even if you built a land bridge, it's a walk over there, and a lot of people are like, I don't want to walk.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
so a land bridge, I'm not sure solves the problem we're trying to solve.
Gotcha.
We'll see, but a lot more thinking needs to be done about Mud Island. But in the meantime, we're not waiting. We're programming, and we're having a great time on Mud Island this summer.
Let's continue to have a great time. Yeah. I like it.
Let's make it happen.
It's a great. This is a great time in our city. We're celebrating 200 years.
200
We're a
years.
city and a county at the same time, right? And
Absolutely.
So, what better place to do it than in Memphis and Mud Island, Tom Lee Park, downtown Memphis, all over Memphis, right?
That's right. All over the county.
All over the county. Even in our municipalities, they love it too. I see people from Germantown, Arlington. They're coming down for all of these great deals that we have going on in Memphis right
Absolutely.
now. Right? And so, hey, look, Carol, we're going to have you back on the show because you're a wealth of knowledge. We'll bring you in on some other shows and do some things with us, but we'll have you back. We had a great time, right, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Well, you know what? I think we'll get out of here. Look, we're going to get on our wheels right now. We'll get out of here. We'll see you again, Carol, all right? So come back and see us on Chairman's Perspective right here on the Kudzukian Network.
I'd love it.
The Chairman's Perspective podcast on the Kudzukian Network.
Hey, I'm your host, Cynthia Daniels.
And I'm your co-host, Williams Brack. And Grindset takes a deep dive into the mentality of the entrepreneur in Memphis.
This show unpacks the entrepreneurial journey. What's your Grindset?
So make sure to check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, or your favorite podcast provider.
Grindset on the Kudzukian Network.
DC.
Yes, sir.
We've had another great one, I think.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think you're right.
We talked about so many things, and Carol hit on so many important subjects that, where did we begin? 44% of minority and women-owned business participation.
In her project. Can you believe that?
Can't believe
44%? Is that happening anywhere?
Nowhere else.
Wow.
And so
Commendable.
Our hats off to Carol Coletta. What she's attempting to do to transform that river park, our riverfront, into something that is worldwide known, I think is commendable. So I support her effort. I'm just so happy we had her here. And as you mentioned, 200 years.
Yeah.
So this is our 200th year birthday, and I think what better way to celebrate than having a great and outstanding riverfront.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I think that I got 3 words to come to mind: informative, transformational, and breathtaking.
Well, we'll be back with you the next time. We'll always to make sure to keep you accountable. We'll be your eyes and ears, as always, for Memphis and Shelby County here on The Chairman's Perspective, and we're powered by the Kudzukian Network, and we'll see you next time.
The Chairman's Perspective Podcast. Executive producer, Shelby County Commission's Van Turner. Hosted by Chairman Van Turner Jr. and Darrell DC Catron. Recorded at Kudzukian Studios. Directed, produced, and distributed by Kudzukian.